and evading the constitutional limitations imposed on them rather than complying with those limitations. What do you see that we can do about that?
Well, I mean, this it's not for me to decide. That was settled at Yorktown. But just as a benign observer and as a friend of America, which is the second greatest country in the world, I would say this. First of all, you have the most sublime constitution devised by human intelligence. I'm only sorry that for technical reasons I wasn't able to be on the show at the same time as Congressman Paul. He understands the importance of it being a living document, that it's not just a historical thing with sort of people in tights and powdered wigs. It's about keeping the population prosperous and free. And you shouldn't, when you diverge from that, your founders knew what they were doing. They'd fought against a concentrated power structure in a remote place. They knew the danger of that, and they deliberately tried to disperse jurisdiction. And that's what has made you so successful. And when people diverge from that, even though they do it from the best of motives, it ends up making America less American, and it makes people less free. Now, I concede that Barack Obama is doing what he's doing from the best of motives. I'm sure he's a patriot. I'm sure he's doing what he regards as being in the national interest, and he wants America to be fairer and to have a more equitable health system and better social security and blah, blah. Right? But the most dangerous diminutions of freedom come from people who are convinced of their own moral rectitude. All of those things could have been said of FDR. He was convinced that he was the champion of the people against the elites and the lobbies. And let's be honest, at this distance in time, I think we can probably concede that there was some truth in that analysis. There were elites and lobbies against him. But the point is that, in his mind, justified overcoming any constraints, any constitutional restraints on his position. He disregarded the two-term convention. He stopped the Supreme Court, or tried to. He disregarded the legislature. He centralized power in the White House in a way from which the U.S. still hasn't completely recovered. And that's the real danger. That acting from good motives, believing that you're responding to a financial crisis, believing that you're making the country fairer or more popular or whatever it is, you make the country more like everywhere else. That is, you make it less American and less free. And I've got to say, the reason that the rest of us are inspired by what your founders came up with and what you have lived up to is precisely because you've been the city on the hill. You've led the rest of the world, not by military might, but by moral example. It's exactly what your president said in his inauguration. So for heaven's sake, don't throw away the things that made you a moral example. Don't make your country less free for the sake of pursuing these short-term goals of vociferous popularity.
Mr. Hannan, anytime you want to come over to this side of the Atlantic Ocean and run for public office, you're more than welcome to do so. And everybody watching and listening to you now, listening to me now, I'm sure would agree with that. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Next time we'll get rid of those technical glitches, and we'll have the great Dan Hannan and the great Ron Paul on at the same time and in the same place. Thank you so much.